So some of you may have been wondering about the surroundings that you've seen in the last few videos that I've done. I am actually in an old school from the town where I live, and I mean old. I think early 1900s probably was when it was built, and I'm actually in what I think had been a gymnasium. I wasn't planning to do this, but I thought, yeah, I'll give you a little tour. Really old kind of style of place. So it's certainly not big enough to be an actual gymnasium. This is not, like you couldn't have a full court basketball court here. But it probably served like PE kinds of classes back in the day. Anyway, and so this was the stage too, of course. Well, you've seen me on the other side of that curtain in the last videos. And the main reason is because it's tight back there. I thought maybe the acoustics would be better. So we'll see what this is like after this. Why am I telling you this? Well, one, just so you know, I'm not holed up in some place that I'm being held captive anywhere. And yeah, it's kind of ramshackle on that, but it works. I teach English to some people kind of on the side, help them with their English class. And so this is a place where we meet. But I also thought, well, it also kind of illustrates a point that I've made in past posts, videos. We did this on one of the podcast episodes, the Great Quotes for Coaches podcast episode, and that is, you improvise, you adapt, you overcome. It's a quote from the movie Heartbreak Ridge with Clint Eastwood back in the 80s, I think 85. One of my favorite, I really liked that movie a lot, but also one of my favorite quotes. And I use it all the time. And actually the principal here at the high school, when I was hired to be the athletic director 11 years ago, and I was the athletic director, his last 2 years, my first 2 years as the AD, he used to say it all the time. You improvise, you adapt, you overcome. And he would constantly be saying that to people. Didn't shock me. He was a former coach himself, one of the best basketball players the state of Montana ever had. His name's Gary Kane, played in Butte. So those of you, anybody here from Montana probably might know the name Gary Kane. Was a great basketball player in the 90s. From everything I heard, played for the University of Montana. Played actually against the Runnin' Rebels of UNLV in the NCAA tournament the year that they went on and won the national championship. I believe it was that year. Maybe it was the year they lost to Duke. But anyway, and Jerry Tarkanian talked to him afterward about what kind of a player he'd been, because he was on fire as a freshman that game. Anyway, I digress. But he used to say that all the time. And of course, I had heard that from that movie, and I always loved that concept. You improvise, you adapt, you overcome. And so that's kind of what I've done here in trying to find an avenue for students in our town who just want something a little different in their English experience, but also we had to find a way to provide that for them. And so I could have done that from the house. Well, that's a little tough, and I live outside of town, and there's a variety of things. But lo and behold, we found this place that worked out really well. Another former teacher and I who've done this, helping kids with their English classes over the last few years, found this school has this place, and this is what we do. And so then, I thought, well, while I'm here, I've got this room, and I've got nobody here, although there is a I don't know if he'd be a technician, custodial guy coming in working on the thermostat, so you might hear some noise. And at times you may have heard some booms when I've been speaking on the other ones, because it's an old, drafty old building. We're in the winter now, and the wind howls at this place. So anyway, I thought, hey, can use this. I can do some things with this place, but also think about the videos that you've seen from me prior to that. I'm on the road driving. I'm on the road driving to speak for proactive coaching, on the road for doing whatever. And it's like, hey, here's a place where I've got some ideas. I've got my tripod. I've got my phone. I set it up before I start driving, and then I get everything set. I use my little clicker, and here we go. And so I start doing it. And so you improvise what you need to succeed. And then you adapt to what is thrown at you. So I'm not saying this was thrown at me. This is great. What we have here works great for what our purposes are. But then because you improvise and you adapt, you are able to overcome a myriad of obstacles that can be presented to you. Does it mean you always overcome them? No. But sometimes the only way to overcome is to improvise and to adapt and to change. And I'm going to go into that concept of change in the next video because I just heard a great concept, a great quote about it. I also wrote about it in last week's blog post. So check that out. It was called, why don't you want to get better? There we go. Why don't you want to get better? Okay. Or don't you want to get better? That's what it was. So, cause I know I had a why starting the last couple of podcasts, but anyway, so there you have it. This is a bit about improvising, adapting, overcoming, and the next one we're gonna talk about that overcoming through change. All right, so come back next week. I might even put these out either at the same time or a little sooner than next week. We'll see. These always come out on Wednesdays. It'll either be next Wednesday or sometime between now and next Wednesday. All right, we'll talk to you then.